Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of our review of the all-new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. Of course, it's a wilderness model, and we're here in Zion National Park. So you know what that means? That means we're going to be doing some wildernessy things. We're going to take this vehicle off-road as well as do a street drive to give you guys both sides of this vehicle. Is it good off-road? Is it good on-road? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Well guys, as you can tell by me flopping around here, we're on the off-roading bit of the drive that with this Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. Now of course that's the main point about the Wilderness, is that it has that off-road capability in addition to the on-road capability, which we'll show you a little bit later in this video. But we wanted to start out here off-road because that's really the main element about this Crosstrek Wilderness. So let's go ahead and just dive in.
So we're in Utah right now, outside of Zion National Park, and we're obviously off-road. But the type of terrain we're on right now for this first section of our off-road drive is primarily deep sand. So it's definitely, pretty slick. We're going up and down some inclines, and we're testing out things like the ability to get traction, how the all-wheel drive system handles some of the deep stuff that you might come up to, just like that right there.
That's very deep sand. Right now, we have it in X mode, deep snow and mud mode. That really tunes the all-wheel drive system to handle those traction issues, which you definitely are going to be encountering on a road like this. And Subaru does have different modes. So you have X mode normal, as well as a snow and dirt mode. Now, one of the really cool things about the Wilderness model is, of course, Subaru symmetrical all-wheel drive is a very famous all-wheel drive system. It's a very capable all-wheel drive system, and they've even done special tuning to make it even more capable for this Wilderness model.
Absolutely. All of these modes here are going to be special for the Wilderness model, and that's in addition to the various items that they have done specifically to improve the off-road performance of the Wilderness. Some of that stuff you learned about in part 1 of our video, in terms of the elevated ground clearance being 9.3 inches, having the front skid plate. But as far as driving experience, the CVT does have a different final drive ratio that's going to help that off-road performance overall when you're going over obstacles.
Yeah, and another thing that I really noticed, because we've been driving this Crosstrek Wilderness off-road for quite a bit today. It's going to be a lot of off-roading, so we're going to have a lot of different experiences to share with you guys. But the ground clearance is something that I find very, very impressive, because as you go over rocks and stuff like that right there, you really don't have to worry about this Crosstrek Wilderness scraping, because 9.3 inches of ground clearance is a lot. They actually had this in the presentation, which I thought was really quite interesting this morning. That is as much ground clearance as a Land Rover Defender 110, and it's only a little bit shy of the Jeep Wrangler. So when we're talking about the amount of ground clearance in this Crosstrek, you're talking very serious off-roading vehicles have very similar ground clearance as this. They've also really done a lot of work with the approach and departure angles to make sure you can have that clearance to get through any type of off-road obstacle.
Now, as far as the shocks are concerned, they do a really good job. As you can see, even when you start to pick up some speed on the off-road areas here, it really keeps things pretty smooth, which is great.
And if you noticed, when you hit 25 miles an hour, it will go ahead and disengage the X mode, deep snow, mud mode, but it does automatically re-engage when you slow down.
Yeah, the shocks themselves are longer and have longer travel on this wilderness model.
And I think they do a really good job of soaking up the bumps.
They really do, because we're going over some pretty beat up terrain, and it's not that uncomfortable. And that's one of the cool things about this. You'll see this later as we go into the on-road part of this drive, but it is designed to have a dual character, so you can go out, you know, out in the wilderness and you can also get yourself back on the main road, and neither of them are going to be uncomfortable. That's kind of the primary purpose.
Now we're kind of going up a steep hill right here. This is going to be showing off just how good the symmetrical all-wheel drive system is at keeping traction. Additionally, I will give props to the tires that they put on this. The Wilderness model does get all-terrain tires, and from our experience off-roading, which, like I said, we've already done quite a bit of off-roading, and there will be even more later on, I've had almost no slippage whatsoever. So these are some really good all-terrain tires that they have on board to give you that grip that you need, as well as the durability that you need. And really, I mean, I'm just gonna say it, it's a fun vehicle to off-road with. One of the things that you don't really think about is, for a small SUV in this size category, not a lot of them are really off-road focused, but they do have the unique advantage of having a smaller footprint than other vehicles. You know, if you're talking the big Outback, the Outback's quite a bit bigger than this, so this Crosstrek has a certain maneuverability that those other vehicles don't quite have. So I really think this is a fun vehicle to off-road in. So I think if you buy the Crosstrek Wilderness, you should certainly at least give it a try. It'll be a lot of fun for you.
Right, for sure. And as Subaru said earlier, this is not as much about conquering the wilderness like a Raptor or something like that, as it is about taking you to a place where you get to experience the wilderness.
All right, and here is a perfect example of where that skid plate would come in handy.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't need to use it because we have 9.3 inches of ground clearance, but that was a very big rut dug out in this dirt road. So with 9.3 inches of ground clearance, you don't have to worry about it too much, and those very good approach and departure angles. I didn't mention the specific numbers earlier, but it's increased from 18 degrees to 20 degrees as your approach angle for this Wilderness model. And that's a prime example of, you know, if you do sometimes hit a rock or something, that's exactly why you'd want the skid plate, which this Wilderness model does come with. So you have that peace of mind going into an off-road situation that you're not going to tear something up and leave yourself stranded. Finally smoothing out a little bit on our off-road course. Just some more just dirt road type of thing here. And this would be a perfect time to talk about hill descent control.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So with this, I actually make it really, really simple. Subaru says whatever speed you crest the hill, as soon as you come down, while you're in X mode that is, it's going to go ahead and automatically engage that hill descent control at that speed that you crest at. So we crest at 8 miles an hour, and without pressing any additional buttons, anything complicated like that, you're able just to set that speed, let it take care of you going down the hill, keep you at that constant speed, and then when you're ready to go again, just press that gas. That's going to disengage it. I really like this because they keep it super simple. You don't have all these additional buttons and knobs and settings to mess with. You need to focus on, you know, keeping it on the road. That's all that you're focused on, so I like that.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way they've done that. Now, the one thing that I don't love so much, which is a little disappointing to me, I wish they had included this, is the front camera system. So as you go over steep hills and such, where you really want that front camera system that helps you keep it on the road and on the right path, where you don't hit anything, this Crosstrek does not have that. You have to get the Forester or the Outback if you want that system. So do keep that in mind. If you're going to be doing a lot of rock climbing with the Crosstrek, you're going to have to be looking with your own eyeballs. There's not going to be any fancy camera systems to help you out in that regard.
Whee!
So all in all, what do we think about the Crosstrek Wilderness Off-Road? I don't know about you, Drew, but when I drove this vehicle earlier and throughout the entire day that we've been off-roading with this, I seriously think this is a very impressive vehicle off-road. I think a lot of people might just look at the Wilderness model and think that they added some rugged matte black plastic and didn't really change anything else, but this has some real off-road chops, so I'm certainly very impressed with it.
For sure. Yeah, what they have done is made a little crossover that has big capability. There we are, 60 miles per hour in the Wilderness Crosstrek. Now, when it comes to the powertrain situation, of course with this next generation Crosstrek, they've been offering two different powertrains, and this is going to come with the up-level option, the one with the most power. So we have the 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine, 182 horsepower, 178 pound-feet of torque. And boy, does it feel quite a bit different than the last version we did in the old generation. Definitely a lot more power on board for sure.
That's for sure, and I mean, this is a small vehicle, so having 182 horsepower is not like a large amount of horsepower, but for a small vehicle like this, I will say it makes it feel pretty peppy, and we've driven all of the competition, and in this segment, that is a very, very good horsepower figure.
Right, this is a segment of low numbers, very slow acceleration. I'm happy to see that some of these vehicles are now offering kind of up-level engines, and this is one of the better ones.
Yeah, now if you don't choose the Wilderness model, you do get just the regular powertrain setup. That's a 2-liter boxer 4-cylinder. That's 152 horsepower, if you're curious about the difference between those two.
Now you just saw us accelerate up to 60 miles per hour out on the street. And I do want to mention the other part of the powertrain, of course, is going to be the continuously variable transmission. It does have that updated final drive ratio, so it's a little bit different, obviously more off-road focused than the standard tune of the CVT. Out on the street though, what it does is going to make things feel just a little bit peppier. So kind of that off-the-line performance is going to be a little bit peppier, but of course really the primary purpose of that retuning was for the off-road capability.
Yeah, and of course, as you saw demonstrated in our off-roading video, you have symmetrical all-wheel drive as standard. That's a Subaru thing, and of course very important for any type of off-roading situation. But I'm sure you're really curious about the overall ride quality for this Crosstrek Wilderness, because we're now on the street just outside of Zion National Park, and I mean, that's really the thing that I was very curious about as well. You know, does getting the Wilderness completely sacrifice your ride quality, those types of things? And I'm very happy to say, despite having all-terrain tires on this model, 9.3 inches of ground clearance, out here on the road, it really does just feel like a regular Crosstrek. I mean, of course, you do feel like you're sitting up a little bit higher than the standard version of this vehicle, but overall ride quality and ride experience is very good, which is certainly something that I appreciate. One of the things Subaru was also quick to point out is that they have done a lot of work with the seats, and they are very comfortable. I will say it's probably one of the most comfortable seats I've felt in this segment, so that's not just a marketing thing. The seats are very good in this new Crosstrek Wilderness. As far as other details that you might be curious about, the fuel economy for the Crosstrek Wilderness is reduced from the other versions of the Crosstrek. As you would expect, it sits up higher, it has those bigger Meteor tires. That does impact your fuel economy. We're sitting at 25 city, 29 highway, 27 miles a gallon combined. Certainly not bad fuel economy at all for a pretty powerful option in this segment. As a matter of fact, I think we just did a Honda HR-V with a lot less power and, of course, none of the off-roading bits, and that still got like 28 miles a gallon. if you're curious about the difference between this and the just limited model with the same engine, it's going to be 2 mpg worse, because that one comes in at 29 miles a gallon combined.
Let's talk a little bit about the on-street handling. Gotta say, I'm actually quite impressed by this. Again, coming back to that ground clearance, that's a really pretty exceptional ground clearance, not just for this class of vehicle, but really for any vehicle. And despite that, we don't have this wallowy kind of feel to it. When you go around corners, it actually stays pretty flat for the height that it has, and I really appreciate that, because that's kind of part of the experience of going on your adventure. We're driving into Zion National Park right now. Roads are pretty curvy, but you're not going to get like sick and queasy feeling on your way in like you would in some off-road vehicles, that's for sure.
That is indeed true. And I do want to mention, as far as the sound level reading, we love to get you guys these readings, but of course we are in Zion National Park, so there's a low speed limit. Also, the roads out here are quite rough, so they wouldn't be comparable to our Kentucky readings anyhow. So we are looking forward to maybe having a Crosstrek Wilderness back home, so we can get you that official Kentucky sound level reading. And if you haven't seen part 1 of our review, go ahead and follow the link down in the description to see part 1, where we talk about all the exterior and interior details and all the tidbits that you get with this Wilderness model. You won't want to miss out on that, so please go watch that video. But I also want to talk about the pricing for those of you who are just in this part. The Wilderness is going to be the most expensive Crosstrek. You can get $31,995 as a starting point, which is a little bit above the $30,895 of the limited trim level. Now, as far as your warranty is concerned, it's going to be a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty and a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. And guys, that's where we're going to leave off on this street drive as well as off-road bit of the all-new Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. We hope you found this helpful, and if you did, we would really appreciate hitting that subscribe button down below. Also, if you're looking to buy a Subaru Crosstrek or any new vehicle, please go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes, because on that website we have actually formulated a tool that will allow you to get quotes from dealers in your area, as well as access to invoice pricing. So you won't want to miss out on that, so go ahead and follow the link in the description down below. We'd also appreciate a follow on Instagram and TikTok, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.